Have you ever wondered why the people you love the most suddenly turned cold? Why your family stopped understanding you the moment you started to change? Why, when your heart began to awaken, everyone else seemed to turn against you? That's not because you became worse. It's because your light started to expose what others were still hiding from. And that light, your awakening, can be too heavy for those still asleep. You see, sometimes Allah doesn't separate you because you did something wrong. He separates you because your soul is ready for something higher. What if the isolation you stir feeling isn't rejection, but redirection from the divine? What if the people who left were never meant to walk with the version of you that's finally awakening? Ibn Arabi once said, "When Allah loves his servant, he hides him." And maybe that's what's happening to you right now. You stir not being punished. You stir being prepared. This is the story of why Allah removes some people from your life the moment your soul begins to rise, and how, through that loneliness, He brings you closer to Himself. You didn't lose them. You simply woke up first. When your soul begins to awaken, the world around you starts to shift. The people you once laughed with suddenly feel distant. The places that once felt warm now feel cold. It's not because you've become arrogant. It's because you've become aware. Awareness changes everything. Ibn Arabi said, "When light enters the heart, darkness becomes restless." Your light began to expose what others tried to keep hidden. You started speaking truth they weren't ready to hear, so they called you strange, dramatic, distant. But in reality, you were being guided out of illusion. Allah doesn't allow everyone to walk beside you when your path changes. Some souls are only meant to be part of your story before the awakening, not after it. Their turning away wasn't rejection, it was divine protection. Every distance, every silence, every closed door was Allah saying, "Now come to me." And though it hurt, the pain was sacred. Because it was through that pain that you began to see you never needed their approval, only His presence. When Allah chooses you for awakening, He doesn't start with comfort. He begins with disconnection. You may feel abandoned, forgotten, misunderstood, but that's the purification of the soul. Allah removes the noise so you can finally hear His whisper. Ibn Arabi taught that loss is not punishment, but invitation. Every friendship that fades, every loved one who turns away, they're all signs that your soul is outgrowing the world you once knew. Awakening isn't beautiful in the beginning. It feels like everything is falling apart. You look around and wonder, why is everyone leaving me? But you'll soon realize, He's not taking them from you. He's taking you from them. Because to know the truth, you must walk alone for a while. It's in that silence where the heart begins to remember. You'll notice how peace starts to rise within you, quietly, slowly, like dawn after a storm. The same people who once misunderstood your growth will one day recognize your light. Until then, trust this: your loneliness is not emptiness. It's Allah's way of preparing you for His nearness. Ibn Arabi once wrote, "Separation is only apparent. The real is always near." What you see as loss is actually alignment. Every person who walked away, every friend who turned silent, was simply playing the role Allah assigned. He removes those who cannot understand your new frequency. You are not being punished. You are being purified. Isolation isn't a curse. It's a sacred classroom where Allah teaches you directly. In that silence, your ego starts to die, and your heart starts to speak. You begin to see how much of your old life was built on noise, on people's opinions, their validation, their distractions. Now, stripped of all that, you face your true self. And that's where transformation begins. Your solitude becomes your sanctuary. You start talking less, feeling more, seeing signs in everything. The wind, the moonlight, the prayer rug beneath you. You begin to realize Allah never left you. He was simply waiting for the world to leave so he could finally meet you, alone. This is the hidden wisdom of separation. It's not the end of love. It's the beginning of divine intimacy. A word that pierces the heart like a blade, sharp, sudden, unforgettable. You gave your love, your loyalty, your truth, and still they turned away. You tried to understand. You replayed every moment in your mind, wondering what you did wrong. But here's the truth. You didn't do anything wrong. You changed, and change always exposes what was built on illusion. Ibn Arabi once wrote, "When the mirror of your soul is polished, others see their dust in it." That's the hidden secret of rejection. When your heart begins to awaken, it reflects truth so clearly that it makes others uncomfortable. Your peace unsettles their chaos. Your silence threatens their noise. Your growth confronts their stagnation. They start to project their own shadows onto you, calling you distant, arrogant, strange, because they can't face what your presence reveals inside them. It hurts, I know, because these were the people you thought would walk beside you forever. You shared your dreams, your prayers, your fears, but as your vibration shifted, their energy couldn't follow. Allah never lets two souls walk together if their directions no longer align. Rejection is not a wall, it's a mirror. It shows you what you've outgrown. Every time someone turns their back, Allah is showing you something about yourself, your strength, your resilience, your attachment. He keeps asking, will you chase what Sep's leaving, or will you trust what Sep's coming? You see, their rejection was never about your worth. It was about their readiness. Not everyone can handle the version of you that is guided by light. Some people are addicted to your old wounds because it made them feel comfortable. The moment you started to heal, you stopped feeding their brokenness, and that's when they walked away. But understand this deeply. They didn't betray you. They revealed themselves, and that revelation is a blessing, not a loss. Ibn Arabi said, "The wound is where the light enters." Your heartbreak is not punishment, it's purification. The pain you feel right now is the fire that burns away illusions until only truth remains. Rejection, at its deepest level, is Allah's mercy in disguise. He saw the conversations that happened behind your back. He heard the intentions hidden in their smiles. He watched the envy in their hearts while they pretended to love you. And he said, "No more." So he separated you, not to break you, but to protect you from what you couldn't see. When people leave, thank Allah, because if they were meant for your next chapter, they would still be here. Sometimes he has to close doors, because your heart is too loyal to walk away, so he lets them reject you, not because you're unworthy, but because he's writing your destiny elsewhere. And in that loneliness, something divine begins to happen. You start to see that rejection was actually redirection. You realize that the one who truly sees you has always been Allah. You start to find peace in solitude, not because it's easy, but because it's sacred. Rejection strips you of false attachments, of people who loved your mask but couldn't handle your truth. And when all the noise fades, you finally hear the soft voice of your soul saying, "This is who I am. This is who I was always meant to be." So don't hate those who turned away. They were messengers, not enemies. They came to teach you the difference between love that clings and love that frees. You didn't lose them. They lost the chance to witness your transformation. One day, they'll look back and see that the very thing they rejected was the light that could have healed them. So lift your head, wipe your tears, and whisper to your heart, Alhamdulillah, because their rejection didn't end your story, it began your awakening. Asterisk. They didn't set walk away from you. Allah walked you away from them. Asterisk. Asterisk. There comes a point on every seeker's path where Allah begins to strip everything away. Not to punish you, but to reveal what sep's real. It starts slowly, first with people, then possessions, then even your sense of who you are. You begin to feel lost. The friends who once understood you now look at you with confusion. The laughter that once filled your days turns to silence. It feels like Allah has turned his face away, but he hasn't. He's just drawing you deeper. Ibn Arabi called this phase the desert of unveiling, a spiritual night so dark that only the brave enter it. It's the moment when Allah removes every false light so that his own can finally be seen. In that darkness, your heart is forced to face itself. No distractions, no comfort, no masks, just you and the echo of your own soul. You pray, but the prayers feel empty. You cry, but the heavens seem silent. You wonder if you've done something wrong. But this is the secret few understand. When Allah is silent, he's speaking to you in a higher language, the language of transformation. He is not ignoring you, he is refining you. Ibn Arabi said, "The journey to the real begins with loss, because the ego must die before the soul can live." Every attachment, every illusion, every false identity, they must all be burned in the fire of divine love. And yes, it hurts. You will feel like everything is being taken from you. But look closer. He's not taking, he's returning. Returning you to your fitra, your pure, original self. This is the dark night of the soul, where the lover feels abandoned, where the seeker questions everything, where faith becomes less about believing and more about surrendering. You start to see the truth of Ibn Arabi Sep's words, "Between you and Allah, there is only you. Remove yourself, and he is there." That Sep's why he isolates you, to remove you, to shatter the illusions that kept you chained to this world. He hides you not to punish you, but to strip you of every false identity, until nothing remains but his reflection in your heart. In this stage, you'll feel emptiness. But that emptiness is holy, its space being cleared for something eternal. You'll notice that the things which once hurt you no longer hold power. The opinions of people fade. The noise of the world quiets. You stop chasing love and start becoming it. Because in the fire of isolation, your soul remembers what it was before it forgot, a spark of divine light. And one day, in that same darkness that terrified you, you'll feel it, peace. Not the peace of comfort, but the peace of surrender. A peace that whispers, you were never lost, you were being prepared. You'll realize that every tear, every sleepless night, every heartbreak was a secret conversation between you and Allah. He was never distant. He was dismantling the walls your ego built. When you emerge from that dark night, you are not the same. You become quieter, wiser, softer. You don't seek validation anymore, because you've tasted the real. You look at the same world, but your eyes see through illusion. You understand now, separation was never separation. It was union disguised as loss. So if you are walking through that darkness now, don't fear it. You are not being buried, you are being planted. Allah is making you grow in secret, away from noise, away from imitation, away from everything that is not Him. And when He brings you back to the world, you will not just live, you will radiate. The dark night of the soul is not the end of the journey. It is the womb of awakening, where your old self dies and your real self is born. So endure it with patience, because soon this darkness will not surround you, it will shine through you. After every night of darkness comes a dawn that doesn't rise from the sky, it rises from within. You've cried, broken, wandered, doubted, You've buried versions of yourself you thought you couldn't live without. But now, something stirs inside you. It sits quiet, yet undeniable, a peace that no longer depends on who stays or who leaves. A peace that whispers, "You have returned." This is the moment of spiritual rebirth, the moment your soul opens its eyes. You no longer look at life through the lens of pain or pride. You see through the heart, and the heart sees differently. Ibn Arabi said, "When you know yourself, you know your Lord." And now you begin to understand what that truly means. You're no longer chasing validation. You're no longer explaining your light to those committed to darkness. The loneliness that once crushed you now feels sacred. It has become your prayer mat, your sanctuary. You start to see Allah in everything, in the wind, the sound of rain, the eyes of a stranger, the silence after Subhanallah. Every moment whispers His name. Every breath reminds you that He was never far. Rebirth doesn't happen in a single moment. It unfolds like dawn, slowly, silently, inevitably. You start forgiving, not because they deserve it, but because your soul no longer wants to carry the weight. You begin to speak less and listen more. You start to notice that what once triggered you now teaches you. The same rejection that once broke you becomes the very reason you found yourself. This is what Ibn Arabi meant when he wrote, "The real voyage is not from place to place, but from illusion to truth." You have stopped running from yourself. You sit with your fears, your flaws, your wounds, and instead of judging them, you embrace them. Because now you know that even your imperfections were tools of divine design, ways through which Allah shaped your heart to recognize Him. There is a strange beauty in this new silence. You no longer crave to be understood. You crave to understand. You no longer rush to fix what's broken. You've learned that some things are meant to remain as reminders, not regrets. You begin to feel compassion for those who hurt you, because you see now they acted from their own darkness, their own blindness. They were mirrors too, showing you the places where you needed to heal. Your prayers become different now. Before you asked Allah to change your life. Now you ask Him to change your sight. You no longer beg for things. You ask for alignment. You don't seek outcomes. You seek presence. This is the evolution of the soul, when desire transforms into surrender. And in that surrender, everything changes. The same world that once felt heavy becomes radiant. The same solitude that once felt empty becomes full of divine company. You walk through the same streets, but your heart is elsewhere, anchored in the unseen, aware of the eternal. You have entered the state Ibn Arabi called al-fana, the dissolving of the self into the real. It's not a death of the body, but of the ego, that illusion that made you think you were separate from Allah. Now you see the truth. There was never distance, only blindness. He was with you in every heartbreak, every silence, every sigh. Even when you thought you were praying to Him, it was He praying through you. This realization humbles you. You stop saying, "I found Allah." You whisper instead, "He found me when I was lost within myself." You realize now that awakening isn't about becoming something new. It's about remembering what you already are, a reflection of His light, a manifestation of His mercy. You carry this light quietly. You no longer need to prove anything. Your presence speaks louder than your words. People feel peace when they're around you, not because you're perfect, but because you've surrendered. You radiate something the world can't name, a calm that comes from divine knowing. This is the beauty of rebirth. You've stopped surviving and started being. You begin to live differently. You rise before dawn, not out of habit, but out of longing. You pray not for results, but for nearness. You start seeing trials as conversations. Every delay, every disappointment, every closed door as His way of saying, trust me. And you do. You trust, because you've walked through the fire. And now you know the fire doesn't burn the soul, it refines it. Rebirth makes you gentle. You no longer fight life, you flow with it. You understand that every encounter, every loss, every joy is a divine appointment. The pain you once cursed, you now thank. The isolation you once feared, you now cherish. You see that nothing was random. Every moment was part of the divine script written just for your awakening. You realize that the journey was never about finding something outside. It was always about returning inside. Returning to the place where Allah has always been, within you. You've come home. This is the rebirth Ibn Arabi spoke of. The moment when the seeker stops seeking, because the seeker has become the sought. There is no you left, only Him, loving through you, speaking through you, living through you. And now, when you look back at all the pain, you finally smile. Because what once felt like destruction was actually divine construction. You whisper with tears of gratitude, Alhamdulillah, you never abandoned me. You were teaching me how to return. And in that moment, you understand. You didn't just survive the dark night. You became the light that no darkness can overcome. There comes a silence so deep that even your thoughts kneel before it. A moment where words lose their meaning and your soul begins to remember what it truly is. This is where the journey ends, not in the world outside you, but in the vast universe that was hidden within you all along. You have walked through fire. You have been broken by those you loved. You have cried in places where no one saw you. But now, as the dust settles, you begin to understand. None of it was punishment. It was initiation. Every rejection was a door closing to protect your destiny. Every betrayal was a mirror showing you what you must outgrow. Every silence was Allah whispering, come back to me. You see, you were never abandoned. You were being trained by the most merciful Himself. He separated you not to break you, but to reveal you. And He revealed you not to the world, but to your own heart. Ibn Arabi once said, he who knows himself knows his Lord. And now you finally understand. The pain was a teacher. The loneliness was a path. The separation was divine surgery, cutting away illusions so that only truth would remain. When you were surrounded by people, you couldn't hear Him. When you were loved by many, you couldn't feel His love fully. So He took them away. One by one, the faces faded. One by one, the attachments fell, until it was just you and Him. At first, it felt unbearable, but slowly, something sacred began to rise in the silence. You began to feel a presence, soft, infinite, compassionate, not outside you, but inside. A warmth that wrapped around your heart when no one else could. A peace that didn't depend on who stayed or left. This was not loneliness anymore. It was divine companionship. It was the realization that Allah was never distant. He was only hidden beneath your distractions. You start to see life differently now. The things that once broke you now bless you. The people who hurt you now teach you. The past that haunted you now humbles you. Because through every fall, you fell closer to Him. You realize Allah was not testing your strength. He was revealing it. He was showing you that your soul is capable of surviving anything, because it was made from His breath. You begin to understand Ibn Arabi's deepest secret, that every experience, every human, every emotion is a reflection of the divine. When you loved, it was Allah loving through you. When you lost, It was Allah reclaiming what was never truly yours. When you forgave, it was Allah cleansing your heart to make space for Him. He was both the wound and the healing, the distance and the closeness, the silence and the song. You see now that your family turning on you wasn't a curse. It was part of your unveiling. They were instruments in your transformation. They couldn't walk where your soul was being called to go. Their rejection freed you from the prison of needing approval. Because only when you stopped needing their validation could you finally hear His voice. The death before life. There came a moment when you thought it was all over, when the pain became too much, when the silence became unbearable, when even prayer felt empty. That was the moment of your death, not physical, but spiritual. You died to your illusions. You died to your false self. You died to the need for control. And in that death, something eternal awoke. It was your soul, quiet, ancient, radiant. The part of you that had been waiting for centuries to remember. The part that was never wounded, never lost, never afraid, because it was always with Allah. And in that realization, everything shifted. You stopped begging Allah to fix your life and started asking Him to use your life. You stopped asking for comfort and started asking for truth. You stopped praying to be seen by others and started praying to see Him everywhere. That is when your real life began, the light after the storm. Now, you walk differently. Your steps are softer. Your heart is lighter. You no longer rush because you've realized nothing is ever late in Allah's plan. You no longer cling because you've realized everything that leaves is replaced by something more divine. You find joy in simplicity. A cup of water tastes like mercy. A ray of light feels like a message. You see Allah's beauty in faces, in clouds, in silence, in pain. You don't need proof anymore. You seen. You tasted the sweetness of surrender. You touched the peace that doesn't break. And when people ask you, how did you survive? You smile because you know you didn't. He carried you through every storm, every betrayal, every sleepless night. It was His mercy that kept your soul intact. Now, when you remember those who hurt you, you no longer feel anger. You feel gratitude because they were your teachers, even if they never knew it. They revealed your strength. They unveiled your capacity to love without conditions. They forced you to return to the only place you truly belong, the embrace of Allah, the return. You realize now the journey was never about finding Allah. It was about realizing you never lost Him. He was with you in every heartbeat, every sigh, every tear. He was not silent. He was speaking through your pain. He was not distant. He was pulling you closer with every loss. You whisper now with tears of awe, Ya Allah, you were here all along. The loneliness fades. The bitterness dissolves. You finally feel what Ibn Arabi called the unity of being. There is no longer you and Him. There is only existence, and it is all sacred. Your heart becomes a sanctuary of light. You speak less, but every word carries peace. You desire less, but every breath feels full. You forgive everyone, including yourself, because you now understand that everything was written for your awakening. And in that peace, you bow your head and whisper again, Alhamdulillah, for the ones who left. Alhamdulillah, for the nights I thought would never end. Alhamdulillah, for the silence that saved me, because now you see clearly. Allah never took anything from you that would have helped your soul reach Him. He only took what was standing in the way, the final truth. You were never walking to Allah. You were always walking with Him. Even when you were lost, even when you were broken, even when you doubted, he was there, guiding, molding, loving. And now, as you stand in this light, reborn, surrendered, at peace, you finally understand Ibn Arabi Sep's final secret. When you see only Allah in everything, then you have truly seen, you have become that vision. You have become that light, and your soul once fragmented now shines whole, because it has remembered its source. And so the story ends, not with victory, but with surrender. Not with noise, but with silence. Not with arrival, but with remembrance. The family turned on you, but Allah turned toward you. And that was never a loss. It was the greatest mercy of all. So now, look back at everything you thought was a loss. Every person who walked away, every moment that shattered you, every silence that made you question your worth. And realize none of it was random. Allah was never removing people to punish you. He was removing noise so you could finally hear him. He was isolating you not to break you, but to make space for his presence. The truth is, your loneliness was never empty. It was filled with his mercy. Every tear was counted. Every heartbreak was witnessed. And every quiet night was him calling your soul back home. So don't curse the distance. Don't question the separation. Because the same one who took certain people away is the one who's now walking beside you, closer than your own breath. You didn't lose them. You found him. And that is the greatest gain a soul can ever know. As Ibn Arabi said, when you see only Allah in everything, you have truly seen. So breathe, forgive, and let your heart rest. Because this chapter of solitude isn't the end of your story. It sets the moment your real life begins. Asterisk. You were never walking to Allah. You were walking with him all along.